And welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money with your host, Michelle Graves, affectionately known throughout the United States for the last 3 decades as the Money Lady. And as always, I remain totally and completely committed to your empowerment as well as the empowerment of your family through just exposing you to the world of money and finance and experts and people that know what they're talking about in all aspects of money, from investments, insurance, real estate, going into business, just everything. And with the total objective of, at the end of the day, you will be able to use this information to enhance your knowledge and be in a position to put those things into real life application. To have knowledge and to not know how to use it is just such a waste. And we're not about that. So today we are going to continue on our subject that started last week, where I brought in a national expert on business and business management and running businesses, Adrianne Heard, to talk to women, and men can certainly come on, it doesn't matter, but it was focused on women because that's where all the activity is today. The number of women that are starting businesses in the United States is just epidemic, and that's a good thing. But we want them to start business and we want them to stay in business because business failure rates for the first 5 years are extremely high. It takes a lot to go into business, and it's more than just a dream and your passion. It takes money, it takes the ability to be disciplined, to be focused, to put things in priority. So today we're going to continue that conversation in part 2 of how to start a business, and that has to deal with making the right choice. There are many different types of businesses that people can start, and I think a lot of the success rate today has to do with making the right choice. Do you want to bootstrap it? Do you want to start from the bottom? Or do you want to get into a franchise? Do you want to look at family ownership? There's just so much to this. And again, as promised in the last show, I'm going to bring you a woman who's the top in her game, Adrianne Heard. Adrianne Heard has a BA in personnel management from Michigan State University. She is an MBA in management and finance from the University of Dayton, Ohio, and is an Ohio Small Business Development Consultant, CBA, which stands for Certified Business Advisor, a designation from the University of Toledo. She established her career many years ago working in the private sector with a number of Fortune 500 companies, as well as not-for-profit and privately held firms. She started her company in 1993, offering a variety of areas of expertise, including management, strategic plans, action plans. She has a book, which I love, called Quick and Smart Entrepreneur's Handbook, which is just, it's wonderful. Available on Amazon. In 2003, she was recognized by Leading Women, Inc. for her contributions in the field of entrepreneurship. She's happily married, has 2 grown sons, and is involved with her sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, as well as her Church Believers Christian Fellowship, and a number of other activities. She's a busy woman, but her heart and her passion is to succeed, to see women do well in the world of business, and that's why I have her back today to continue the conversation. So, my friend, you bad girl. You're a bad lady.
From one to another.
You're a bad lady. So where do we want to begin here?
Well, let's start where we left off. The last session we talked about exploring business ideas.
Yes.
And so quickly, do what you like to do what you know how to do what you can do.
Okay.
And if there's a way to build a better mousetrap, build a better mousetrap. You need to visualize your business. You need to develop a clear vision of your business and of your role in it. Sometimes You may want to be the chief operating officer instead of the chief executive officer. But most importantly, if you're going to go into business for yourself, make sure that it motivates and inspires you.
Because it's going to be a long road.
You're going to have to get up every day.
Yes, for a long time.
And you need not be discouraged. So you need to be motivated to take that next step, because every day is not going to be the best day. And you need to celebrate your successes. And you also need to understand that the world of entrepreneurship for women is a small world, and everybody doesn't understand it. So everybody won't share in your pleasures. Everybody won't understand your challenges. Don't worry about it. Keep moving. Keep moving. Your key success factors are going to be having some experience in what you do, being able to plan. And I always say you need a plan A and a plan B.
Yes.
I can't say that. Stuff happens. You need to be prepared. And then you need to have sound management and technical support. We don't expect you to know everything, but you need to know enough to know, oh, I don't know that. I need to be prepared to pay to get good information. We talked about the 3 areas of production, promotion, paperwork. Be prepared to perform and understand in each area, and for those areas that you're not good at or don't have the time for or just don't want to do it, be prepared to pay to have it done right, because you need all 3 of those things to work. It doesn't do any good to have a great product if nobody knows about it.
Absolutely.
And without the paperwork, you can't keep track of what's going on. Good managers make decisions based on fact. Even if you have a gut feeling,
That's not good enough.
you should go out and find the facts to support your gut
Right.
feeling.
And I might want to interject and just say that I am such a strong proponent of women in business, and have been for 38 years, and wanting them to do well, and using my own example and my own story, because it was a very difficult piece for me. I don't feel like I have seen the stars. I work every day diligently to become a master of what I do. I would also like to make a recommendation of a book for you to read if you have not read, called Outliers. Outliers. It's a New York Times bestseller. And it talks about the hours and the years that are required for you to become extremely financially successful. Now, perhaps that's not a goal, but I tell you as a truth, passion without money means you probably need to be a nonprofit. Is that fair?
That's fair.
That's fair. Don't come into the private sector where they play hardball every single day, and you're running against people that can run faster and may be smarter and may have more money. But you got to play ball, and you got to play hardball most of the time.
But now let's make a point on nonprofit. It's
Okay.
not for profit. You exist because of your passion,
Yes.
but if you're going to be able to serve this passion for more than 1 year, you're going to have to manage it like a business.
I totally
You are
agree.
going to have to generate funds to cover the expenses, or else you won't be able to continue to provide the service over a long term.
Right.
So even as a nonprofit, you have to be fiscally sound. That means you
That's
have
good
to
advice. That's
pay
good
attention
advice.
to your money.
Yes.
Now-
So where we want to begin here?
Let's start with what business should I try? When you've looked at things and we've talked about, the ways to, I think I'm kind of good at this. I call it the 4 cents. You have to do some examination. Does it make sense? Does it make personal sense? Does it make business sense? Does it make market sense? And does it make financial sense?
Yeah.
So personal sense means you're looking at the businesses, you need to figure out what's the impact going to be on my family and my personal life. If the lack of time for family, community, and personal activities that's probably going to be the highest price you pay when you start your business.
I will tell you, I made a huge mistake going out the door. I was involved in a ton of nonprofits in board positions.
Yeah.
And which is a extremely serious time commitment. If you
Mhm.
have a working board, you're going to work. And what I found is that despite what you may feel about corporate America, when you are running a business, your time is so precious to keep your business alive that all those social do-gooder type things, even down to church, you just don't have time. And you begin to get tired of saying no. I mean, really. I resigned from so many boards, and even today, I am very, very non-committal about boards because I don't have the time.
Now, the nice way to say no
Tell me.
is to give them an alternative.
Okay.
So-and-so may be willing to help you. And hope that she's not good at saying no.
Yes, I have to remember that.
Yeah. Sharon Howard, we talked about her.
Yes,
She's a personal
amazing
friend,
woman.
a mutual friend. She says no is a complete sentence. So once you say no, don't feel obligated to explain it.
No.
It's a
No.
complete sentence.
And I really, it's something because many people are not aware that when you are running your own business, it is time consuming.
Yes.
And a lot of things just go by the wayside, including, sadly, your social life. You really have to push, if you have free time, you really have to push to want to do something socially.
And networking is not social life.
Please go into that.
Please don't get it confused. And we talked about this before, when you are a female owner of a business, happy hour is networking, it is not cocktail hour.
Exactly.
We are viewed as not being professional if we network the way the men do.
Absolutely. We cannot be up there drinking. Sorry. Sorry. You cannot be hitting that martini.
Networking for a female entrepreneur is not the same as socializing.
No, it is not.
Be clear. So does it make personal sense? How much money do you need to get out of the business? What's your bottom line living budget? And will the business generate enough money to meet your personal needs? Because remember, the needs of the business come first. For the business to survive, you have to pay your business bills first. So will it generate enough money? So you need to think about your commitment, how much money you can invest. Can you afford the personal financial risk? Should you attract investors? Think about that. Think about, what do I do well? What do I like to do? What would I like to be doing 5 years from now? Think about it.
Or as you pointed out to me, and I put it in my office, it's taped on my wall as a perpetual reminder of Adrianne Heard. You showed me the business cycle.
Yes.
And Adrianne, in all of my years, nobody told me that your business has to continue to grow or you've got to go.
Yes.
And you have to have a strategy to get rid of it. It's got to be sold.
An exit strategy.
An exit strategy.
And just quickly, the business cycle, every 5 years, 3 years if you're in technology, your business changes.
That's
It
profound.
starts off low at the bottom of the slope. And if you do things right, it continues to grow. If you don't, you exit. It continues up into the growth stage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do things right and you're prepared for it, you continue to grow.
Right.
If not, the growth overwhelms you and you
Out again.
5 years, you plateau. Everything is running smoothly, but you can only plateau for so long. When you reach this plateau at the end of 5 years, Either you start the cycle over again, you exit, or you crash. So every 5 years, and you need to be prepared. Strategic plans usually look out 5 years.
Right. It's a 5-year lookout.
Right,
Yeah.
because the business cycle, and if your technology is 3 years.
Well, let me share this with you because that so altered my way of looking at corporations even. For example, and I posted on my Facebook about GE is making a major strategic transition into the satellite. They are dumping $6.9 billion in assets to transition into an industry where they want to dominate.
You have to start something new every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
It may be an expansion of your product line. It
My
may be a
goodness.
difference in the way you do things, but you can't continue to do everything the way you've done it.
So
In
a
5 years.
business owner has to be prepared to shift,
Prepared to change.
or else you're out.
Growth that you're not prepared for can kill you.
Mm.
Lack of growth can kill you. And you need to make these decisions ahead of time. And that's where your vision comes in. What do I want to look like in 5
Right.
years? Now let's talk about business sense. Looking at this, does it make sense to do this?
Yeah.
Have a model that you can play with. That's the business plan.
Mhm.
To take it apart so you can look for information, financial performance, operating procedures. Look around and see who else is doing it. Is it feasible? I mean, are there customers who will buy what you're selling? Are there customers who are willing to pay for it? And will they buy enough to meet your financial needs? Don't measure it just, well, you know, my friends and my family are buying it now.
Right.
I don't count those. So think about it. You know, like there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. If somebody else is already doing it, look, you know, hey, works for them, so I don't need to try to do this different. They're doing that and it's not working, so this I'll do different, this I won't. Don't reinvent the wheel, just make it better.
And that's the other thing that I learned overseas is that you don't have to be original.
No, just
to
do
be
it better.
rich.
No.
Just do it better.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not even a do it better because truth of the matter is, as we all know, with this whole resurgence of Made in America, Americans specialized in very high quality products. That's the legacy. And then we outsourced, and initially it was great, but then we discovered there was some
Quality.
problems around quality. They took a product we had made and they made it, but it didn't have the same bells and whistles, which was okay initially, but cheap is really cheap.
Yeah.
That's what we've learned. Cheap is
Yeah.
cheap.
Don't mistake inexpensive
Right,
for cheap.
right.
They say you get what you pay for, and you
You do.
You do.
You really do.
Shop around, but know that there is value.
Right, and that if a person brings something to the market that is of value, you don't discount it. Now, how do you make that happen? I don't have an answer. You're the expert, but I will tell you that my rude awakening, and viewers, you need to know that even the money lady is freaking out on stuff, okay? Because it doesn't fit the model that I thought it would fit. And a classic is the project I was involved in with the West Africa shea butter, which is a very profound oil that has tremendous value for medicinal and health. But there are some real challenges.
The distribution chain.
Oh my God. So you spend 10 years, did you all hear that? 10 years. You spend 10 years stabilizing the supply side. Because you know what? Africa is Africa. So you get all that worked out. You got all these women that are finally producing and doing a lot of good things in terms of getting them jobs and their children, and it feels good, and the profitability is not there. So you get a little nervous because why am I doing this if I'm not making any money because I'm not a church? So you go into the marketplace in the U.S. The product heals skin conditions, burns, radiation burns from cancer. Tremendous application on just the global application. But now you got to deal with the hospitals, and you got to deal with the changing climate for healthcare.
And the industry.
And the industry. And I may be smart, but as I tell folks, you can't hold up an ocean. Adrianne, you cannot hold up an ocean. And Americans want organic products, and I can meet the market on what they want, but the pharmaceutical industry runs this game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fact. And it took me getting my rear end kicked to pull back and say, whoa, wait a minute.
So is the business feasible?
Is the business feasible? And that is exactly where I am right now, 12 years of work.
And that's where we talk about, does it make market sense?
Yes.
Because is there room and need in the market? Part of the research is to study to see what's working now and what seems to be coming along and what barriers there are to you entering the market. You had no idea that the pharmaceutical industry would be a barrier to you entering the market.
They run the medical industry.
Because what she's doing is not a pharmaceutical. So why should the pharmaceutical industry be a barrier? Because you're a competition.
It's competition. And I had this conversation just as a sidebar, because this is all really important as you all begin to look at markets and competition. And I get a lot of emails from many of you, and thank you so much. I appreciate it. But here is the stark truth. Competition is integral to capitalism. If you have a widget, trust me, there are 50 other people that have that same widget.
Or if not that same widget, they have a solution for the same problem that your widget solves.
Exactly.
So if ever I'm working with someone and they tell me they have no competition,
I'm like, really?
That tells me either they've not done any research or they really don't know their product. Because if there's a need, it's being satisfied somehow. Maybe not as well as your product will satisfy it, but somehow that need is being met. And your competition is whoever is satisfying that need currently. And if your competition happens to be the big boy or have deep pockets, it doesn't matter how well you satisfy that need if the competition restricts your access to the market. So what is the market feasibility? Who will your competition be? And what is their impact to you entering the market? Because if the market is large enough for you and there's a need in the market, there's still the chance that you will not be able to enter the market. So if you say there's no business like yours, then there's probably no market for the goods and services you hope to sell. Or if there are a lot of businesses like yours, the market may be crowded and not have room for a new supplier. So you need to think about who your customers are going to be, how many of them are available to you. You need to think about what's happening in your industry, the trends, and if the taste of your market has changed. You need to be aware of that.
Can I just interrupt and say this? I just had a profound conversation with my nephew, who is a brilliant accountant. He's just brilliant. And we were talking about leveraging the new technology for environmental sustainability, solar panels, all that. And there is some tremendous value to people being able to self-contain and generate their own electricity and come off the grid. And he went on, and I looked at him and I said to him, young man, I've got stab marks all over my back. It's like, Aunt Michelle. I said, no, the politics of how resources are allocated are major. And you need to know, if you think the utility companies are going to stand back and watch everybody come off of that grid without pushing the legal button,
Market feasibility?
Market feasibility. And he went and argued with me. Oh, and you're just being negative. I said, oh my God, I'm so much older and I'm just full of all kinds of carvings. I said, but I bet you a nickel to a dime that a utility company is going to sue a consumer. And do you not know in California, as we speak, 2 consumer families that came off the grid are being sued? As we speak, they're being sued by utility companies that say it is not legal for them to come off the grid.
And even if it is, the cost to defend the suit
Oh, this is what I told you.
is so much that they have to stop.
They have to stop. And I told this young man late last night, and I don't want us to get, but it's important when you start talking about business plans, etc. And he went into shock. He said, I said, politics, politics, my son, are real. And your idea can press a nerve.
And that will impact your access to the market.
Yes, it will. Continue.
So now, we've talked about 3 cents. Let's talk about the 4th sense. And for me, this is the important one. Does your business make financial sense?
Yeah, well,
I mean, your idea might have a market,
I want to help society.
but not be profitable enough to justify the financial risk. And we've talked about don't make the mistake, because you want to be so helpful, of making your business financially successful by providing it with your free labor. You should get paid for your efforts.
I agree.
And there are 2 types of return on investment. The one is compensation. That's money for your time and your effort. It's a salary that's more or less dependable. The other type of return that you also need to have is investment growth. That means a long-time growth in the value of your investment. That's that risk that you take. You need to have some money that's value on the risk that you took, value that you can put back into the business to help it grow even more. So you need to think about, what kind of return do I want? Know that some businesses are more profitable than others, but let's go back again to what you want to do. Lawyers, maybe I don't want to be a lawyer. Doctors, maybe I don't want to be a doctor. And then what can you learn from others, from trade and industry averages? You can do a lot of research online and at the library. The Department of Labor has lots of information. Your state, Secretary of State has lots of information. The Small Business Administration has lots of information. Spend some time at 3 a.m. in the morning, because as an entrepreneur, you'll have a lot of 3 a.m.s.
Tell me about it. Last night.
So now, let's go ahead and talk about getting started. Would you go to the slide that shows how to become an entrepreneur? Because this is what I'm going to talk about now. Okay.
All right, here we go.
There are 4 ways to become an entrepreneur. You can start a business from the ground up. You can take over a family business. You can invest in a franchise. And then the 4th way is you can buy an existing business. Each one has advantages and disadvantages. So I'm going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each. I don't make the decision.
Right.
You do. So you know, when you start a business from the ground up, the advantages are you get to be your own boss. It costs less to start a business from the ground up. It costs less because it costs less than it costs to buy one, and it costs less than it costs to buy a franchise. When you start a business from the ground up, you can look at some of those unexplored markets. You can choose your own location. You can develop your own management style, your own policies, and you won't be buying the problems and flaws of an existing business. Sounds pretty good.
Sounds pretty good.
Flip side.
Flip side.
Starting from the ground up, you are responsible for selecting the legal structure, the bookkeeping systems, the staff, the location. You have got to go through and obtain all of the licenses and all of the permits. You have got to establish a customer base. You've got to develop management systems. You've got to develop the marketing plan. You've got to develop the standard operating procedures.
Ah,
Okay?
you're giving me a headache.
And then if you're a startup, you've got some special problems. Because first of all, you don't have any track record. So everything you do is either right or wrong. You don't know until something happens. It's hard to find industry figures for startups because everybody starts differently. It's startup costs really are kind of high in that every mistake costs. And the learning curve for a startup is kind of steep. That's what did you say? Most of them fail in the first year.
First 3
And I'm
years
really
is-
amazed when
I
you make it
mean,
past 5.
I'm really amazed.
And then as a startup, your challenge is competition because
Oh.
somebody else is out there doing it and they don't want you there. Got some solutions. If you want to become an entrepreneur by starting a business from the ground up, join a trade association.
Yes.
Visit comparable businesses in other locations. Now, if you live in Washington, D.C., don't visit a comparable business in Podunk, Kentucky, because the markets are different. But if you live in Podunk, Kentucky, don't visit a business in Washington, D.C. Visit a business that's going to have a similar market as yours.
Yeah.
I would tell you to visit one in your city, but for the most part, if you're going to be my competition, I'm probably not going to share information with you. Okay? Get experience in the business. Push your cash flows. Figure out how much cash I've got to have and figure out what I can do without. I really don't need that car that I drive only on weekends to impress my friends. And the mink that I've got,
Gotta go.
well, I'll keep one.
I'll keep one.
I'll keep one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the shoes, I'll use red shoe polish and paint the bottoms myself.
Right,
Okay?
exactly.
A startup solution, write a business plan. And then have somebody review it, somebody who understands business, look at it, somebody who's going to be honest with you. Okay, advantages and disadvantages.
Okay.
I'm lucky I'm going to take over the family business. Everybody can't do that, but if your family has a business and you want to take it over, that's a way to become an entrepreneur. Advantages and disadvantages. The advantages to taking over a family business is that in all probability, you know the business.
That is the hope.
If you did it right, they started
right,
you in and you've
exactly.
worked your way through. The advantage is that it has name identification because people know the business. Advantage, you can get guidance from family members.
Yes.
Advantage, you've got an existing market. And if there's been succession planning done, you've been properly trained.
Right.
Advantages.
That's good.
Disadvantages.
Yes.
You may not understand the company operations. You may have been there all the time, but I'm the owner's child.
Right.
So I really don't have to know what goes on. I came in as an 18-year-old and they made me a foreman.
Right. Right.
Okay. Another disadvantage is you may have family issues when you're trying to change the business. This is the way Grandpa did it.
That's a real situation. I know of a
Yeah.
number of people that are doing that.
And
That's
then
a real situation.
another disadvantage is a difference in expectations. The expectation may be this business feeds the entire family. Or the expectation may be that we don't want the business to change, or we want the business to change, or by now we're third generation and we've got 50 cousins who all want to have a
Yes.
say in how the business operates. And so when you need to make a decision quickly, who's in charge?
Right.
Advantages and disadvantages. The third way you can become an entrepreneur is by purchasing a franchise. This has some true advantages.
I love that concept.
Remember
I'm serious.
where
I
we
think it's
talked
great.
about one of the challenges of starting a business is developing standard operating procedures?
Right.
When you buy a franchise, they've already got procedures that have been proven to work for them. When you buy a franchise, it usually has name identification. They provide training and assistance because they want you to succeed. Some of them even provide financing. If you come up with $90,000, they'll come up with $90,000.
Right.
Some of them, you can get quantity savings because they purchase for all of their franchises. Or fast food restaurants.
Right.
They purchase on a national level. They have national contracts, so you can get it at a much lower rate. They're established. They have marketing. You only pay a small portion
Right.
to get corporate marketing. Oh, great. Right, right. Disadvantages, there's a lot less freedom. They've got standard operating procedures that you must use.
Or else they will drop you.
Exactly. There are expenses. You know that marketing, you pay a percentage of it. Training and assistance, franchising fees. A lot of franchises, you give them a percentage of your income, of your revenue off the top. Not a percentage of your net after expenses, a percentage of your sales. They've got business restrictions as to where you can operate. And there's a lot of paperwork as well as accountability. Now, I kind of like the accountability
I think that's
with
important.
franchises only because it forces you to pay attention to how you're running your business.
Right.
But sometimes when you're in a franchise, you don't want to do it the way they said to do it. You've got a better idea.
Right.
They don't want your better idea.
Right.
Or if you have a better idea, it has to go through the corporate chain and be approved at the corporate level
Right.
before they allow you to implement it. So, advantages, disadvantages.
But I must say, the success rate of franchise ownership is impressive.
Right, because they've already figured out the things that go wrong and are telling you how not to do it wrong.
Right.
There's a cost involved, but it's worth it when you don't have to pay for your own mistakes.
And that is significant.
But on the other hand, sometimes it's fun making your own mistakes.
I'm not there.
Okay.
I'm not there.
And then finally, a way to get into business is to purchase an existing business. Now, and there's some challenges with purchasing an existing business. The advantages are name identification, staff, they have existing procedures, and they have an established client base. The disadvantages of purchasing an existing business are name identification, staff, procedures, and their client base.
Right.
So how do you know? Well, you have some questions you should ask. You want to know why the business is for sale. Is it because the owner is retiring, or is it the owner relocating, or does the business have problems? You want to know what the business, the history. You want to know what is its financial condition. If the owner is not willing to share financial records with you, you don't want to buy the business. You want to know what is the sales trend. Is it going up? Is it going down? You want to know if there are any post-sales expenses that you're going to be responsible for. And you want to know how the business can be more profitable. There's a reason it's for sale. You need to look at their balance sheet carefully. The balance sheet is supposed to show you the business's worth, but there are a lot of little things you can do that are illegal.
That are legal.
But to make the balance sheet look better, so that's why you want to see a history of financial statements. So the same thing that can be good in a business can be bad in a business.
Right.
So just buyer beware.
So let me ask you on that subject of buying a business, do you have any thoughts about retaining the services of a business broker?
Yes.
Give them to me.
A business broker will give you the 20 questions you should ask. A business broker will work with you to see what the parameters are that you're looking for in a business, and then they will find a business that meets those parameters. Yes, they cost. Yes, they're worth it.
I'm glad to hear you say that because I really believe that they bring tremendous value to the marketplace.
It's like buying a house without a realtor.
A realtor. I'm like, you can do it, but you may be
Yeah.
very sorry in the end.
Right. You may be lucky, you may not. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So you need to be prepared, and it's worth it to use a business broker if you're considering buying a business.
Right.
But now let's get on to the basics, primary thing that will lead you to success, and that's a business plan. We call a business plan a roadmap to success. The Lao Tse is a Chinese dude. He says that the finest memory is not so firm as written ink. In the process of writing it down, and it's short, short.
I know you talk about that
Yeah.
in this book.
I said, this is not a college project where you get a paper and the further it goes, the more pages you have. No. Short, concise. It's a working model of your business. Remember I talked earlier about having a model? And in the process of writing it down, you really learn more about your business. It's also cheap insurance and a source of new capital, because anybody who's going to invest in your business wants to see what your plans are. But in writing a business, you have to think about it. And it really points out to you things that you haven't thought about. Yes, you can go online and buy a business plan, but the plans that you buy online were not written for you. And when I write business plans, I don't really write business plans. What I do is I ask questions, and each question I ask you takes me off into a different road. Because if we're going from Washington, D.C. to Seattle, Washington, there are many ways to get there. I help you drive your roadmap. It's based on what kind of car you got, based on how many drivers you have, based on if you have money to stay in hotels or you need to stay in a tent.
In the car.
Or in the car. So the business plan has to be a roadmap based on what you're bringing to it and based on where you want to go. Because you said something earlier, if you don't have a plan, any road will get you there.
Any road.
Okay.
Any road.
So now, let's go ahead and talk about what's in this plan. Could you give me the outline of a business plan? A business plan has three parts. It has the narrative, which is, and this is a slide that has a little ship on it. Don't ask me why I took a ship. I just like sailing across things.
Okay.
Because I always say, when I'm talking to people, I don't want to hear about the waves. I want to hear about did they reach port.
Right.
That's
Right. Did you
the
get
waves.
destiny?
So when people give me a plan and it tells me it's got all of this, I call it stuff and fluff. No, I want to know just the basics. I want to know the business described with words. I want to know your business described with numbers, and they better match. Don't tell me in your words you're going to have 5 staff, and then when I look to your financials, you don't have enough money in payroll to pay one person.
One person, yeah.
And your explanation was, well, that's because I realized in order to make a profit, that's all I can put in payroll.
Right.
Well, then, if it takes 5 people to run your business, and you only have enough money to pay one.
Got it.
And then the third part of the business plan are the supporting documents, which are basically proof that tell me that those things that you've told me, you didn't just make them up. If I have someone and they're going to remodel a building, I want to see quotes from construction people.
Right.
I don't want you to tell me, well, I'm going to spend $5,000 on remodeling that building so it'll fit my needs. And you're not in construction, you don't know, well, that's all I'm going to spend.
Well, what does that mean? I mean,
No.
right.
And then when you get in there, it's actually $30,000. So your supporting documents are how you prove that what you've said are true. So under the business section, when we describe it with words, you're going to describe your business, you're going to describe your product line.
Okay.
You're going to describe your market. You're going to describe your competition. You know that word we keep talking about where you say you don't have any?
Oh,
And the questions that you need to address in describing your competition include how you're going to be better than them, how you're going to be different than them, why people are going to choose you. You're going to describe your location. And if you are really starting and you don't have a location yet, then I want you to do two things. I want you to write a list of the ideal location, what it looks like, what it has.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want you to write a list of the must-haves that the location must have. And then when you go looking for a property, you take that list with you, because I don't want you to be distracted by sparkly things.
So let me ask you a question, particularly in today's digital age with technology. Do you need to have a physical location?
It depends on your product. If you're manufacturing, yes. If you're
Okay.
distribution, no.
No.
If you're retail, maybe yes,
Mm-hmm,
maybe no.
Mhm.
So it depends on where you are in the food chain.
Okay, got it.
As to
got
whether-
it.
I have a home office. Well, I have two offices in my home because now my husband works for me. So he has.
That's
But
wonderful.
my dream had always been to have an office outside of my home. And so, and I had written down what the perfect office would be to keep me from getting one.
Mm-hmm. And then you,
And then I found one. I said, oh, well, I've got to do it because it matches everything
Yes.
that I had on my list. And so I moved in there, and it didn't actually increase my bottom line. But I felt good because I had a personal office. I had a huge office that had a conference table, a small conference
Yes,
table,
yes,
seat
yes.
6 in the main office. Then it had a library, and then it had a meeting room where I could do small workshops for 6 to 8 people.
Right.
And then it was part of a building that had another training room where I could do 20 people that had a small kitchen. Oh, it was ideal, and the parking was free, and it was close to
Okay,
I
sounding
loved
good,
it.
sounding good.
But it didn't increase my bottom line.
My goodness,
And I said, you know,
something's got to move here.
I've been doing training before, and I have places where I rent to do the
Mhm,
training.
Okay.
And most of my clients are in business for themselves, so if I want to work with their employees, I can come to their site.
Mhm.
So I moved out of my big office, brought my business back home, and bought a new car with the rent money. Hey.
Hey,
What can I say?
hey.
But don't get distracted by those things that are sparkly wants instead of needs for your business. And that's kind of what the business plan does. You're also going to talk about management. You know, like who does what, who runs it, who makes the shots,
Right.
who calls the shots, who makes the decisions. I had an individual who retired from a university and started a art gallery. Art gallery and art school.
Okay.
And the biggest shock to him was when he went to the supply cabinet and it was empty. Because nobody had filled it.
Nobody bought any stuff.
Nobody had refilled it.
Right.
He had stocked it when he began.
Right.
And he'd done an excellent list of, based on what training he was doing,
Mhm, Right.
what supplies were needed.
Right.
And that's what he used to do when he worked for the university.
Yes.
They knew what course was going to be. He said, these are the supplies that are needed. And he'd go and they were there. And when he went, he said, well, you know, I've got the list, but I don't have anybody who's responsible for getting it. And I said, hello, who does what? Who does what? Think it out ahead of time. Personnel, what kind of people do you need and what will you pay them? In that family business, don't hire somebody because they need a job. Don't hire your friend because they need a job. It's easier to give them money than to bring them in and have them
Or mess up and waste your time.
You write job descriptions. And the good thing about writing all this down is that you find out what works, what didn't work, what I hadn't thought about. I'm real strong on having a plan A and a plan B.
Right.
Know that no plan is going to be perfect even if I write it for you. So have plan A and plan B, and you can play with it. Nobody would build a house without having a set of plans. They have a set of plans, and the set of plans tells them that the windows have to be ordered 6 weeks before you put them in.
Right. Right.
That's what your plan does. So you can take it apart, see if it makes sense. Once you know that the plan makes cents, then you put the numbers to it.
Mhm.
Now you have your vision, you have your financial goals, you know what you want to make. Put numbers to every section of your plan. The part you know best is the product or the service. Put numbers to every part of your plan and run them and see what happens. Run them, make projections, figure out where you're going to get the money from, figure out how you're going to use it. Make a list of the equipment. When had in a consulting firm, most of what I needed was office-like supplies, copy equipment and stuff like that. I'll tell you what I did.
What?
I went online and made my shopping list online with model numbers and cost.
Yes.
Had a complete shopping list, so when I was ready to go forward, I took that shopping list to a brick and mortar store and told them if they could meet or beat the prices, they had a deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is business.
Yes, that is business. And then finally, after your financial data, you need your supporting documents. And as I said, that's anything that proves your point. A resume, a credit report, letters of reference, lease, price list, purchase orders, anything that proves your point. Breaking the business plan down into small steps makes it easier to understand and easier to begin and easier to reach your destination. If you want help, you can go to the Secretary of State in your office, in your state. Go to the Secretary of State online and you can get lots of information for starting a business in your state. You can go to the SBA.gov and get lots of information. And you can even go to IRS.gov and they'll give you publications and information on how to keep your paperwork straight.
That is so amazing. Well, Adrianne, one other thing I wanted to talk about before the show wrapped up today, and this has been fascinating. Viewers, haven't you found this to be just amazing if you're thinking about going into business? There's a whole lot to learn and to know. And it kind of makes you wonder sometimes if you should just go on and get up every morning and work for somebody else and fulfill their dream. Seems to be a lot less work and a lot less stress, but I also feel that entrepreneurs it's in them, it's in their DNA. But let's talk about this other thing we talked about during the break, which was the many people that are out here repping for manufacturers.
Okay. Well, we talked about the where you fit in the chain.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a manufacturer who
Yes.
you produce goods.
Yes.
You can be a distributor who the manufacturer ships the goods to you and then you just ship them out to where they're going to be sold.
Right.
You can be a wholesaler who the distribution ships them to you and then you ship them to the individual retailer.
Okay.
Or you can be the retailer who you don't produce anything. You just sell stuff that's
Yeah,
produced
right.
by other
I
people.
got it, got
You
it.
can be anywhere in the chain. You can be you can do a little bit of it all, or you can
Okay.
be just the person who sells what other people produce.
So are they considered business
Yes.
entrepreneurs?
Yes.
Okay.
But when you come to retail, you can have a brick and mortar store, and those are the large retailers. Kmart, Walmart, do they produce what they sell?
No, they're just massive
They're
distributors.
right.
Mhm.
They're retailers,
Right.
and they have distribution centers,
Yes.
and they can buy in such large quantities that they can give low prices. But they are brick and mortar retailers.
Okay.
You have some stores that are both brick and mortar and online, and what they're discovering now is that their online sales are cannibalizing their brick and mortar stores,
Yes, yes.
especially when they don't have to pay sales tax. So you go to, and I think Radio Shack was a good example. People began to go to Radio Shack simply to see what it was they were going to order online.
Right.
Then there's also, you can be online, you can be brick and mortar, or you can be door-to-door. Door-to-door retail sellers. First millionaire, female millionaire.
Mary Kay.
No.
No?
The first,
Madam
Madam C.J. Walker.
C.J. Walker.
Yes.
Yes.
She did door-to-door sales long before Mary Kay Ash.
You're right.
And Mary Kay Ash has created more women who are making more than $50,000 a year than any employer. But what you need to understand is that you are not you don't do the product.
No.
You normally don't do any of the procedures of you track their paperwork, and you don't have any say on what it is that they produce.
Right.
You're responsible for maintaining your clientele and selling to your clientele. The challenge becomes, the big challenge beyond your marketing and your clientele is how you manage your inventory.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Mary Kay, as an example, requires you to purchase your inventory, and then whatever you do with it is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And you get all kinds of awards by the amount of inventory you purchase, whether you sell it or not.
Well, see, I can understand as a manufacturer why that would be imperative for them to do that.
Right.
Because they're really the controlling agent here.
Right. Now, Avon, on the other hand, you sell it and then you get it from them, so you don't really maintain a huge inventory, except I believe maybe your regional person may have the inventory. So they have a different market.
Right.
And then Tupperware is different even yet. So in each case, it matters how you handle, how inventory is handled.
Mm-hmm.
You learn to do paperwork, but it's their paperwork. You don't have any control over product, although you can decide which products that you're going to stock.
Okay.
But if they decide to change a whole product line,
you're out.
you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them do change their product lines on a regular basis because they want you to buy something new.
And that's just prudent management.
Right.
It really is.
But
It's prudent management.
it's a way to touch ground to find out how to get into business.
Wonderful. I so appreciate that clarification because I wasn't clear. That is so amazing. We've run out of time. And again, we've covered a lot. Ms. Heard is an amazing resource, seasoned since 1993, doing what she does best. She's fulfilling her passion and making it happen. And again, if you'd like to get her book, you can always get it on Amazon 24 hours a day. And like I said, I give this a 5-star endorsement because it's a wonderful thing. And again, in closing out today's segment of The Power of Money, I am your host, Michelle Graves, and wishing you, as always, an amazing day, an amazing week, an amazing month, an amazing year. God bless you. See you next time. You take care.